Shake it off, shake it off, let's go. That song got me even more fired up. And I know you're thinking, how is that even possible? Because you're bringing that 165 energy. But this has just been such a great day. And I'm excited about the first keynote that we have coming up next. But first, let's do a quick poll to follow up on some of the amazing conversations we've been having. Poll question that you should see in the chat shortly is, what currently influences your standard of beauty? Option 1, friends and family. Option 2, social media. Option 3, mainstream media. And option 4, advertising. The poll will pop up in the chat under polls, and we'd love for you all to participate. This is a great way for us to keep that same energy going and connect further and really understand about how we are all impacted differently and in different ways. And so I'm just so excited about what we have coming up next. We've got an incredible lineup. We've got our first keynote with someone who I've absolutely looked up to and inspired by. And she'll be moderated by someone who I've also been really looking up to and a lot of the work that she's been putting out. So let me introduce you to Alex Light. She's a body confidence and anti-diet activist on a mission to help people feel good about your body. And that's all the way up my alley. Hi, Alex.
Oh, hi, Coach Carey. Thank you so much. What a lovely intro. How are you?
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm doing amazing. I'm excited for your chat. So get fired up. Bring all that energy. Let's go.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. This lineup today has been amazing. So cool. So my name's Alex Light, and I talk about all things eating disorders, body confidence, and self-acceptance online. And I have the absolute pleasure today of introducing and interviewing our wonderful keynote speaker. She is an actress, a writer, a podcast host, and an activist, which we are going to dive into the interview. I'm honoured to be, introducing her because she's inspired me a lot, and I've really looked up to the work that she has created. So I'm really pleased about this. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Jameela Jamil.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello,
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I was telling you earlier, but I may as well tell everyone. Not wearing pants. It's just not happening. It's not happening. It's all just business up top. And I think that we're all that way still. A year in, I just don't think I'll ever wear buttons or zips again.
No, I've got pajama bottoms on, but I'm not showing you because they're really disgusting.
Like a hero, like an absolute winner.
Small bit of housekeeping. We might be struggling with a few Wi-Fi issues. We're looking okay, but in case we do dip in and out, we'll be straight back. So everyone watching, remember to add any comments or questions to the chat just to the side there, and we're going to try and get to as many as we can. Jameela, should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So straight into all things body. You have been on a journey with your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been very candid about your struggle with an eating disorder, and because of that, I know some of your story, and I know that you've worked damn hard to get to where you are today. Can you talk us through that journey, for lack of a better word? Can you talk us through it?
I can. I grew up with quite a healthy body image, and that I didn't have any body image, and to me I feel like that's the height of what I could ever hope for, is where I don't even think about my body as anything other than just a vehicle to carry my brain around. And it just didn't occur to me that I owed it to anyone to look a certain way. And then at 11 years old, maybe just before I was 12, I was weighed at school in front of my entire class. We all were. It was for a maths class where they were just trying to teach us how to collect data. And so we were all weighed in front of each other. I was the heaviest girl in the class. I was put at the top of a board of our weights and was instantly ridiculed by the entire class. And then it got around the school, and people started kind of making snorting pig noises and making fun of me. I was also the tallest girl in the school, not that that makes any difference, but or tallest girl in my class. But the point is that I immediately realized that a heavier weight equals a lower social status, I suppose. Right. And so, very quickly found myself kind of spiraling into an understanding that the less space you take up in the world, the more accepted you will be, the more welcomed you will be, the less you will be ridiculed, the more friends you might have even perhaps. And my family were also super fat phobic, you know, through just their own social and cultural conditioning. So just everywhere around me was just diet culture, diet culture, diet culture, the things that I was hearing my parents' friends say about their own bodies or about their children or about each other or about celebrities, like all these, it was the beginning of tabloid culture of like showing a picture of like someone gorgeous and talented and iconic like Queen Latifah writing beached whale across her body. Or, you know, I was talking recently to Deborah Messing that just after she'd had a baby, she went to the beach with her husband and the headline was Will and Gross. Ugh. Because she was in Will and Grace, and that was the messaging that was all around me, and it was this kind of explosion of that messaging. And then heroin chic came in the fashion industry, where you were supposed to be thin enough to look like the only thing you eat is heroin, the only thing you consume is heroin. So it just kind of tipped me into a severe eating disorder, severe body dysmorphia journey. I don't know if I'll ever not have body dysmorphia, but I do know that I have spent 20 years working on my eating disorder, and I finally had EMDR therapy. That's EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, to change my relationship with food and with my body. And so I don't participate in body positivity, because for me that still means that I'm obsessing over my body. Instead, I just work on neutrality now, which is easier for me, because love is a really high step to get to if you've been in hatred for a really long time. So just trying to get to the middle ground of neutrality for me is super realistic, where I just don't really look in full length mirrors. I'm not even wearing a full length outfit. But I've just chosen to not negotiate with it. Like, it's no one else's business what my body is doing. It's also none of my business. And now I treat my body like it's a car, and I put good fuel in the engine, and I clean it mostly, and I just look at it as a way to take who I am from A to B. And that's where I was as a child, and I feel like that's when I was the most mentally healthy.
I'm interested in your stance on this, you know, on body neutrality and kind of like aiming for that rather than a body love or a body positivity. Is that even something that you would like, to love your body and, you know, really feel fantastic in your own skin? Or is it just not even a concern for you anymore?
I don't know. I also just want to quickly caveat that I think because of my story personally being around aesthetic, that people think that I think, or that it is true that aesthetic reasons are the only reasons people will fall into eating disorders. There can also be mental health issues, control issues, a history of abuse, etc. Like, there are so many different paths to an eating disorder. Mine just happened to be cultural conditioning. But yeah, sorry. So remind me of what you just said. Sorry, what did you just say?
I was just wondering about sort of your stance on,
right,
you know,
sorry, I get it.
Body neutrality.
So body positivity has to exist, because there are some people who live in this world. Like, I have the luxury of not having to try to actively love something that the world constantly hates on. Like, people who are bigger than me cannot get jobs because of their size, cannot even join dating sites sometimes because of their size. There is a supposed quote unquote 3% of unmatchables that some people get told that they are in, and therefore they are not welcome on a dating site. There are medical discrimination for people who are bigger than me. So I completely understand the need to actively have to work to love something that society explicitly hates. Nobody's concern trolling me about my health on the internet. So for me personally, I totally understand that movement. But I think that any time I spend thinking about my body, whether it's because I love it or I hate it, it's time I'm not spending thinking about my orgasms or my bank account or my friendships or my, in no particular order, like, or my relationship or what it is that I will look back on my deathbed. So now that's what I'm kind of, it sounds morbid, but that's what I'm obsessed with, is like, you know, if today's my last day on earth, did I live it well? Rather than like, could everyone see my abs? You know, was I thin enough for the patriarchy today?
Yeah, exactly. That's it summed right up, right? Because, and I always think this, like, what is going to be our legacy, you know, when we leave this earth? Will it ever be how our bodies looked? I very much doubt it.
No. And as you get older, you just care less and less. And as your body stops working as well, and you find yourself bending over to pick something up and literally making the sound "hoi" without even realizing, you develop a different relationship with your body, and suddenly what it looks like becomes less and less important every year, and like what it actually does. Like, can I get off the toilet without like throwing my back? You know, it's just a reality. So I'm grateful for age because of that.
I really appreciate that though, and I think that you're right in that the less time we spend focusing on our body in whatever capacity gives us more time and energy, you know, precious time and precious energy to focus on other areas.
Like
and
men.
Yeah, exactly. Like men.
You don't have this extra homework to do of like looking younger, of cheating time, of cheating gravity. They're just getting on with their fucking lives. By the way, I mean straight men, because I'd say that within the gay community, there's a shitload of body pressure. But straight men just carry on. They just age. When they get older, we shoot them in high def, and we love those sexy wrinkles. We call their hair salt and pepper. Like, you know, whereas like you have 55-year-old female celebrities and they look like emojis on the front cover of magazines. Like, they're so airbrushed, they all look 15. It's weird.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. Do you know what? That leads me to something that wasn't part of like the pre-planned questions, but something I really want to ask you about is I've heard that you're an actress on The Good Place. And I've heard that you will only the amount of time spent for hair and makeup, you say it has to be the same as what the men are allowed for hair and makeup, right? That you won't take any extra time to do that. And I heard that and I was like, that's so fantastic. And that's probably something I would never even question. I'd be like, well, women need more time in hair and makeup. But I thought that was great. That's true, right? That's
yeah, because I can't be funny and I can't remember my lines and be energetic for a 16-hour day of filming if I haven't fucking slept. And the hair and makeup time for girls on most TV shows is around 1 hour and 45 minutes. And for boys, it's under 30 minutes. And that's just such a huge, that's so much important sleep lost that changes your performance. So how can we possibly keep up? How can we possibly do as well as them and bring as much to the table if we haven't slept as much? And I feel like this goes way outside of acting. I've got mates who work in offices, but they still wake up 1 hour before their boyfriends to like straighten their hair, or like the amount of stuff we've been conditioned to think, I cannot leave the house, like I must have a manicure. I hope that that's changed in the last year where no one's been able to go and have a manicure. But like, what I'm trying to say is that I just couldn't, I was struggling really badly to deliver on set. And so I was just like, I refuse to come in before the boys. And so you're just going to have to figure that out. Like, we're not doing prosthetics here. You're just putting eyeliner and lipstick on my face. This makeup took me 5 minutes to do just now. So I was like, I'll do my own makeup and someone else can do my hair at the same time. And then boom, 25 minutes. I'm in, I'm out, I'm on time. And I'm energized and happy.
I'm going to adopt that in my own life, I think, wherever I can.
100%. It's really sexist. It's like it's bad messaging as well. When someone has to take 1.5 hours, the reason I do all these like IG lives of me doing my full red carpet makeup in 10 minutes and I don't do edits or anything, it's just like a full straight 10 minutes, is because I want people to see that you can achieve these looks really quickly. And actually there's something really indulgent and damaging about telling a woman if you want to be pampered, that's fine. I get that. Like, preen away, take 2 hours, take 5 hours, take the day.
Right.
But I don't want anyone to feel like they have to have 1 hour or 2 hours spent on their face for them to look presentable for the outside world. That's really bad messaging for someone like me with body dysmorphia. It tells me that that's how long it would take for me to be allowed outside. But a man can just pop out, like roll out of bed and just throw some mascara on and he's ready for the world.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, I love that. Circling back then to, you know, your journey with your body and getting to this place of body neutrality now. And I'm going to ask you something that kind of like I get asked a lot, and it's a question that I don't really love because I find it very difficult to answer. So I'm sorry about this, just a preface.
Thanks.
But yeah, you're welcome. I'm just going to put you on the spot. I want to know if there were any sort of like pivotal moments for you that really shaped your, and I say it was difficult for me because it wasn't for me. It was this like tiny imperceptible bits of progress that all added up. So I didn't have any like aha moments, but I'm wondering if you did, if there was anything for you that kind of stood out as like, this is a turning point for me.
Yeah, I had one where when I was 26, I landed this huge job on BBC Radio 1, and landing any job on Radio 1 is huge, but I got like the second biggest show in like the history of the network, and no woman had ever been given that job in 60 years on air. And I got that job, and it was really cool. And so after 3 months of doing that job, your ratings come out. And normally when a host changes over, those ratings dip. Mine went up by 200,000 listeners, which is unprecedented. So wow. I was really excited for those numbers to be revealed that day. And instead, all my male colleagues' numbers were revealed. But the headline about me was just that I'd gained a couple of dress sizes because I'd gained weight. I was on steroids. I, ate cake with every meal. Who cares? I was able to breathe because of those steroids. Good for me. And so all the photographs are just pictures of me, like eyes half open, mouth open, running, like always unawares. And that's a really interesting thing that people don't realize, is that when you're skinny, photographers will stand and stop and ask you really politely for the photograph, and they will wait for you to put your bags down and like pose in a way that makes you look even more flattering and thinner, and smile at the camera. When you're bigger, they only want the photographs where you're not ready, where your eyes are half open, where you either look sad or unprepared or like disheveled, lazy, like you are a mess because you are not societally acceptably thin. And that's a really odd thing. Yeah. And so when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing a job where you can't even see me. I'm on the radio and people just need to know I'm thin over the airwaves. I'm not a model. I'm a radio broadcaster. It's just my voice. Imagine this much pressure still being on me. I've done this historical thing where a woman has never broken this ground before, and I'm doing well at it, and they don't care because I'm just not thin enough. And that was my kind of light bulb moment of, oh, hell no. And so when all these offers started coming in for these weight loss deals, and they come in, the second you get shamed publicly about your weight, all these predatory diet companies come and start offering you so much money to promote their weight loss things. So they're either like, we'll train you for 6 months and then you'll bring out a fitness DVD, or we'll train you for 3 months and won't tell anyone we're training you for 3 months, and we'll pay you to pretend that our product made you thinner. So you just attribute it to some fucking, unregulated detox or diet product, but actually they were secretly training you and giving you nutritionists all along. And they want you to take these deliberately embarrassing photographs where you are supposed to be on the beach with always with a burger or a hot dog in hand, running while eating a burger in the sea, and your bikini is always 3 sizes too small, so that it's a particularly extreme before, and then they like do a really well lit posed, probably photoshopped after. And so hearing all of this, realizing all of this, I was just like, nah, fuck this. And so I refused to go to a gym. I refused to go on a diet. I think the weight came off slowly and naturally over 7 years or 8 years. Okay. I mean, some people say you should lose a pound a month or something. Like, I think I lost a pound every 6 months or something. But I just let my body just do whatever it's going to do. It's been 8 or 9 years.
The best way. That's exactly the best way.
And it's a sustainable way, and I haven't been trying in particular. I've just let the medication come out of my system and just do what it does. And if I need medication again, I'm going to get bigger again, then so be it. I need to breathe. It's more important than being thin.
Right. And I think that's sorry, I was going to say that's something as well. Society doesn't see our bodies as like these kind of like fluid, like elastic, like they move with our evolving circumstances, and they change according to our health, our mental health. There's tons of different pandemic.
Loads of people gained weight during the pandemic. Like we all did. Most of us did. Like I did. Like I just sat down for a year. Like, of course I'm squidgier and fine. That's my body's still alive after a pandemic. My body's a legend. Right. Exactly. So I'm like, I look at it as armor, and fair enough. And I just don't beat my body up over these things. But that was my kind of big fuck you moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm no longer being gaslit that this is what the patriarchy wants. This is very literal. It's in my face. It's a headline. And I was like, and I've never been partial to doing what people want me to do or tell me to do. I've always wanted to rebel. And so I think that I'm just a naturally rebellious, disruptive person, just to my detriment sometimes. But I put out a plus size clothing line instead. I was just like, I'm going to own these curves. I love my bigger boobs and my bigger body. And that really kind of spearheaded my recovery out of an eating disorder. Because then I went and got therapy, and I was just like, this is their problem. This isn't my problem. And when clothes don't fit me at a photo shoot, that's on them. They got my sizes 3 weeks in advance. It's not my fault that designers aren't talented enough to make clothes that are bigger for someone who's bigger than this. Like, if you can't design clothes for multiple different shapes, you're just not very talented and you should leave.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel about designers. And so,
Yeah.
you know, Christian Siriano can do it. Everyone can do it. And if you can't, you're just shit at your job.
So it's interesting that you're like, one of your turning points was actually as a result of you being in the public eye, because I wanted to ask you about that, because we know how damaging and detrimental being in the public eye and being famous particularly can be, particularly for women and their self-esteem. Prior to that, do you feel like, you know, being in the spotlight affected your self-image?
Yeah, because you're always being conditioned. You're being congratulated anytime you look thinner, which is such a dangerous thing to do. No one listening to this ever congratulates someone when they've lost weight. It's such toxic messaging. It makes them feel so self-conscious. It makes them feel like they're always being scrutinized. And if they gain weight, they'll have then failed you and failed in front of you. Never comment on someone else's weight. I used to, and I don't anymore. I would say that the sizes again of the clothes are teeny tiny, like teeny tiny, which is why they use 14-year-old or 16-year-old models on the runway, because those people's bones haven't fully developed yet, so they're the right size for these like tiny Barbie clothes that human adult women up to the age of like 80 are supposed to fit into somehow, even though we're from different ethnicities, different heights, different backgrounds.
Right.
Makes no sense. And then you're being photographed and then scrutinized heavily. So when I first got into this industry, I think it preyed upon a lot of my eating disorder antics. And the worst thing about it is that everyone's starving themselves. This is what no one knows, is that no one's eating properly. Everyone's got a fucked up relationship with food. Everyone, you go to a photo shoot and you're there with like multiple really, really famous actresses who seem really happy and speak in a really balanced way in interviews about their relationship with their body and food, looking at a table of food like it's covered in like dead babies. It's really disturbing to watch the way that people behave around their bodies and the anxiety that women have before a press run or before a photo shoot, how much people starve themselves leading up to these shoots that you see them in, and you think that's just the way that they look.
Because there is that disparity as well, isn't there? You know, between saying in interviews, "Oh, I just drink lots of water," you know, or I go on a hike.
It's bollocks. It's bollocks. No, there's so much neurosis. I would say it's overwhelmingly the majority of people, the majority of women in this industry have a disordered attitude towards their body or towards the way that they eat. And that's from 12 years of experience and talking to them when they're not being interviewed. And I understand the desire to want to say something that seems like you have a healthy attitude publicly, because it's hard to open up. But I've just chosen to always just be like, no, I was starving myself. When you saw this picture of me and I looked happy, I hadn't eaten in 3 weeks and I was like passing out, and I only managed to stay for 7 minutes because I thought I was going to faint. It's really important for me to just lift the curtain back and tell people I've been struggling. So what was great is just how offensive that moment was 9 years ago, that kind of, I was so appalled. And I think it just awoke real feminism in me back then. And so I used to be a fat activist who was a fat person engaging in activism for fat liberation, but now I'm the same person but slimmer. And I think people who don't know me from then, when I was bringing out plus size clothing and going and speaking at Parliament, like the Houses of Parliament, to like lawmakers about our attitudes around people's bodies, people think that I'm now just a slim woman who's like taken up space in body positivity because it's trendy. It's like, no, I've been in this shit for almost a decade. I mean, well over, if you take into account everything before then. But, you know,
as you say, you're in a privileged body, right? And you're using that, you're leveraging that privilege to, you know, help liberate those who are pushed to the margins of society. So actually, like, it's fantastic.
But it does also suck for activists who are also bigger than me, who aren't getting any air. By the way, back when I was much bigger and I was saying all the same stuff, people used to tell me I was just jealous and bitter. And now they listen to me, now that I'm saying the same exact words as a thin person, they're just like, oh, it's so inspirational. So we do have a problem, and I'm trying to not contribute to that. So I'm walking the line, but trying to figure it out as I go.
Yeah. So do you know what? We've just had an audience question on this, actually. And it's, how can those in slim, able, etc. bodies, so privileged bodies, help those in more marginalized bodies? What's your thoughts on this?
I think include them on your social media, try and push for them to be in your magazine. So whenever I do a cover, I always ask if I can be brought in to guest edit and make sure that I can include, like I did a stylist guest edit last year, and I make sure that I have people with disabilities in there, women of different sizes, women of different ethnic backgrounds, people with mental illness, etc. I think you can just make, if you are in a privileged position, just try to create space wherever you can. Like I built a platform called iWeigh that I fund entirely by myself, and I give shows to other activists to make their own TV shows with their favorite people, and I'm not involved at all other than just being a producer. iWeigh barely features me apart from on the podcast, where it's mostly just me asking experts to educate everyone, including myself. So I think I'm just trying, we have almost 1.5 million followers on iWeigh, and I use it explicitly just to leverage the work of other people. And so not to say that I am the example, but that's just how I am currently trying to do it. I've built a platform that I can give my money and my, fame to broadcast the work of other people whose work I respect and think is more important than what I have to say.
Yeah, love that.
But it's just about inclusion. It's inclusion.
Inclusion, yeah. And you know what, that reminded me of, I was writing a piece the other day about body diversity in the fashion industry, which, as we know, is like absolutely shocking. But that's something that people in, a straight size body can do as well, is they can advocate for women in bigger bodies and, demand that there's clothing made for them, because that's still a huge problem, isn't it, in the fashion industry?
Also, when you read a script and you see problematic stuff, so like I've had to do this multiple times over the last year. I'm sure people think I'm so tedious in this industry, but if I see something fatphobic in a script, I will call that out without even doing the audition. I'll just be like, this is abhorrent for these reasons. The other day I was reading a script and they had the word psycho used colloquially like 19 times throughout the series, and I was like, no, you can't use ableist language like that. And I'm only learning because I used to use crazy, insane, mad, psycho colloquially as well. And so it's the same thing with when I was asked to take the part of a woman who was an amputee. I was like, no, give this role to someone who is an amputee. This is not me virtue signaling. This is just me saying how I'm learning to call shit out when you see it. I've not always been perfect at this, but I think that's what my effort is. I can only ever tell people what I'm doing because I'm not, an expert at anything.
Do you know what? I wondered that because I actually watched The Good Place, which I really like. But I was wondering that as I was listening to some of the lines, and I was thinking, I wonder if Jameela sort of, I didn't hear anything fatphobic. I was just wondering if you spotted anything in the script, whether you, specifically asked for those things to be taken out.
There were two things that were problematic in the script. Season 1, Kristen Bell's character says chunksters, where she's like wondering if chunksters get into heaven. But the reason they kept that in is because she's playing an asshole, and that's the kind of thing only an asshole who's going to hell would think. So therefore that was okay. And then I think there was a short man, and there were a few jokes about a man being short for Tahani. And again, Tahani is an asshole in hell. So I think they're trying to illustrate that this is what problematic, vacuous, empty people think about other people. So because it was presented in a way of like, we are problematic, it felt okay-ish, but I still feel a little bit uncomfortable with those things, to be fully transparent. But I think but I understood the jokes. But I also it makes those are two things that I would call out. Outside of that, it was like the most unproblematic TV show in the world. It was the most inclusive. It really was. And like morally responsible. And I think those things were handled in as morally responsible a way as possible. But I'll always feel a bit like, whenever I hear anything like that.
Agreed though. I didn't find it problematic, the TV show at all. I thought it was brilliant. So I want to ask you, like, a lot of the audience wanted to know about, this is, I find a tricky subject, is how to start conversations with friends and family members who don't know anything about this anti-diet revolution movement that we're all involved in, and who might make comments on your body. So I find this difficult. It's twofold, I guess. One, because I don't know if you can relate to this, because I guess you're more rebellious than me, but because I'm British, I feel very much like I have to be polite and non-confrontational, as possible. So I find that difficult. And then, also it's hard because we can say till we're blue in the face, your body doesn't matter, your weight doesn't matter, and you can do all the work you want on yourself. But if that is not being reflected back at you in your environment, in your situation, and in your personal life, that's really difficult. So what do you suggest in this situation? What's your advice in how someone could tackle this?
So this is again why I can't get to body love, because I'm just like, I'm soaking in body hate, like all around me. So I am really careful about what I see online. I curate my online. We are way more in control than we think we are. There are adverts that are still we're still being targeted with. That is not our fault. We can still report those adverts and say, I do not like this, but our social media companies need to do better. But we can choose who we follow. I don't follow the young, hot kind of it girls, because I can't help but feel shit about myself after looking at them. It doesn't make me small-minded, it just makes me human. We're a comparative species, and so I think that I don't follow a bunch of models. I don't follow magazines that show me images that are super airbrushed and that make me feel bad about myself. So I'll follow British Vogue because I feel like Edward Enninful doesn't Photoshop the hell out of everything and shows such diversity in the pages of that magazine, or like Stylist magazine, or a couple of different. I'm just very, very careful that I don't follow clothing companies that don't represent what would make me feel happy. Anyone who makes me feel like my life is shit, my relationship is shit, like I am shit, like my hair is shit, my skin is shit, my body is shit, I just don't follow it. I don't need to see that. There's enough bad stuff that's happening in the world that we don't need to actively seek it out and like put it in front of us. So be wary of your timeline. I call it self-defense of the mind. And then also I look in the mirror once in the morning to do eyeliner if I'm going to wear any makeup that day, or wash my face. And then I look in the mirror last thing at night to put some skin cream on, like take my makeup off and put some moisturizer on before bed. That's it. I do not allow the mirror to tell me whether or not I can have a good day or not. I've just decided just to not look. It's easier for me. Maybe it's the cowardly approach, but it really works for me. And not having to worry or think about it all day has completely changed my life. I can literally see the impact it's had on my bank account, on my relationships, on my friendships, on my work ethic. I can work harder and be better and be funnier because I'm not panicking about the way that I look so much anymore. I used to obsess over it for years. I look back at like T4 when I was on it, and I was just like, oh my God, you were so dead and empty and boring. And I would remember it's because I wasn't really going over my lines before I would go on camera. I was just standing there picking myself apart in front of the mirror for 4 hours, the 4 hours of getting ready time, staring at myself being like, oh, what else is anyone going to find a problem with? Oh no, this bit of my hips is too big. Oh no, this like tiny little spot on my skin, everyone's going to notice it. Just infused with vanity, and therefore shit at my job. When people are like, you're shit on T4, I'm like, I agree. I was consumed. I was consumed with narcissism. And it's part of why I left TV and went to radio, was because I was like, I'm obsessed with the way that I look. I need to stop because I'm going to starve myself to death otherwise. And so ironically left to go and solve like that problem, and then got bullied for gaining weight. Like all of my worst nightmares came true, but it kind of saved my life. Not to give the tabloid media any credit. Fuck them. Yeah. But, yeah.
And also, I guess maybe, and I can relate to this, like having such a fear of gaining weight that came from anorexia, but I was like terrified of that more than anything else in my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good. It's really helpful for people watching this who also have that same fear, for them to know that actually the reality is far less scary and horrifying than the concern, Do you agree with me?
Yeah, you know what? Oh, totally. You know what? Like, I think honestly, one of the biggest parts of my recovery has been all the times where everything's like gone spectacularly wrong. So when I was fat shamed for 6 months, like on the cover of all the tabloid magazines, and I had paparazzi outside my house, and like these pictures of my bum were everywhere because I was bending over to get my keys in a vulnerable moment at 7 a.m. That moment of being shamed by the world and life carrying on, like the world doesn't stop turning. Your friends still love you. In fact, they show up more, if anything, and people still fancy you. Like I got a boyfriend that year after having been single for years during my skinniest years, because I had so much of an eating disorder. I didn't even have a sex drive. I didn't even know how to flirt with anyone. Got a boyfriend, had sex, had a lovely time that year. But I thought that would never happen if I got bigger. Same thing with last year. I got like globally shamed by the entire internet and piled onto and accused of all the shit that I hadn't done. And everyone just said the most vile personal things about me, about my family. They were mocking my mental health, said I had Munchausen, like said I was lying about having had cancer. Like, why would anyone lie about that? How would that ever help anyone get a job? All the things that I was accused of. And I survived it and I came through it. And going through that, you know, as a woman, you're always taught like you have to be liked by everyone, you have to be approved of by everyone, everyone has to believe you. And when you're actually disapproved of by millions of people and disliked, and they don't believe you, it kind of sets you free. Now that I've come through the other side of that, I'm like, cool, the pressure's off now. I don't have to be liked by everyone. I can just do me. I'm going to carry on in activism, carry on in my career, and stop fucking apologizing for myself so much more than a man would do. Obviously, if I fuck up, I'll apologize, but just trying to be perfect for all these different individuals with individual tastes who all want perfection according to their standards all at the same time. So my most humiliating moments of being like so down and so humiliated have ended up in being my ultimate freedom, because the world doesn't stop turning. Even if you're at school right now and you're being bullied or shamed, or someone's got a picture of your tits and they are circulating it all over the school, and you feel like this is just going to be your life forever, I promise you it won't. The world moves on. There is a whole world outside of the walls of your school, of your office. Even if you're a famous person that's on the internet, life moves on. Time passes and heals, and you can just get up, dust yourself off, and thrive. And that's what I'm doing now. Like, my career is back times 10. And I thought it was over a year ago. Just a year ago, I was like totally suicidal. Exactly like this week. It's my birthday week, and I was totally suicidal on my birthday last year because of how much people were just mocking my disability or like mocking my mental health. And I was like, what an ugly world. I don't want to be here anymore. And now a year later, I'm like the strongest and the happiest and the freest I've ever been. And so I hope people know that sometimes facing your biggest fears can show you, A, what reality really is, and B, how much stronger you are than people wanted you to know that you are. They keep us afraid that we don't find out how strong we are.
I love that. Then people, I really like that. And I think that is such a wonderful message to send out, is that like things go on, things carry on.
Like honestly, like resist and then persist. That's it. That is basically all I want anyone to know. Resist and then fucking stick to your guns. Huh?
We care so much about what other people say about us, and they're so fickle. Like, you really like, the old saying that, today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip paper. Like, that's so true.
I'm not here to prove myself to anyone anymore. Like, that's it. As long as the people who know me, love me and respect me, and I do right, and they believe in me, like, I'm good. I have 12 friends, like close diehard friends. That's all I will ever need in this world. I'm not out to impress a bunch of strangers who, because of misogyny, are looking to poke holes in me anyway.
Right.
Look at the way we treat women in the public eye. Look at Meghan Markle. Look at Britney Spears. Look at Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes, like Anne Hathaway, Jennifer Lawrence, Greta Thunberg. Like, we do this to every single prominent woman. Yeah. When we don't like a man... when we don't like a man, we just don't learn anything about him. We don't learn his name. We don't follow him on the internet. We just don't care. When we don't like a woman, we will investigate every single thing she's ever said, every done, every photograph of her, scrutinize her obsessively. It's really weird. So I just don't. I was
going to say, for everyone watching as well, you have a fantastic highlight on your Instagram about that called gaslighting. Right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I would love to ask if you could give the audience some practical tips. So for anyone who might be feeling bad about their body right now and is really struggling and has kind of maybe attended this festival to help that in some small way, like, what would you say to them?
Okay, so first things first, it's really important to understand the system of oppression that you are harmed by. And I know this sounds very like technical, but it really worked for me because it's logical. So understanding 100%. That advertising companies, right, capitalism, commercialism, all thrives off of making sure that people feel unhappy, because unhappy people buy more things to fill the void, to fix what they've been told is broken. So if you understand that, you realize, oh my God, I'm being actively manipulated. Women in particular make up almost 80% of the market of consumption, right? We are almost all of the people who are buying everything. So that's why we are focused on more to make us feel unhappy. Look at the way that the goalposts keep changing every decade. Like, at first we're all supposed to be thin and white with like thin curled up lips like Meg Ryan. And then the year after that, we have to be even thinner. And yet with now big boobs and big hips, but still with like tiny, tiny waists and tiny, tiny legs. And we're supposed to have a thin face, but it has to look young forever. that doesn't make sense. The chubby face will look younger for longer, and the thinner face will look older quicker. That's just science. That's just fact, or physics, or whatever. And so I think in understanding that actually the greatest rebellion, the greatest, oh shit, have I frozen?
No, you're good.
On? Okay, the greatest feminist rebellion is resisting that system that like like when I realized the filth of like, oh my God, I'm worrying about this. That's exactly what they want me to do. That helped me tremendously in like letting go. Second of all, as I said before, be very careful about what you're looking at. Be careful about what magazines you pick up. Be careful about who you follow online. Third, look up EMDR therapy. I know that not everyone can access therapy, but if you can just do me one favor and save all the money you were going to spend on clothes, makeup, anything for your hair, anything for your skin. Cellulite cream doesn't work, by the way. Anti-aging cream, not a thing, and ageist and weird and offensive. Any of these things that you buy for your exterior, save that money in a piggy bank and put it towards therapy. That's what I did 8 or 9 years ago. I was forbidden from buying anything from my outside until I had fixed my inside. And talk to friends and family about it. It's so important to open up about this and get this off your chest, because your inner bully that is tormenting you all of the time and saying the worst things to you, things that you would never even say to your worst enemy, thrives off you keeping all of this to yourself. As with any abuser, it can do its best work when it knows that you aren't telling anyone else what it's saying to you. You need to tell people your thoughts. You need to hear yourself say it out loud. You would never tell a woman that you love that she's too fat to go for that job interview, that she's too old for love or too fat for love, that she's never going to, you would never say these things to anyone that you know, that you are too stupid for this, like you are not good enough to even try for something that you want. But we say these things to ourselves all the time. So catch those thoughts in your head and defend yourself the way that you would stick up for someone that you love or respect.
Yeah. Do you know what? And I'm just going to reiterate your first point, because I think it's really important. And it's what was very kind of like, it compounded everything for me, was learning about diet culture and why we're made to feel the way we feel. And I think that's super, super powerful. So if you can get your hands on as many resources and just research the hell out of it, diet culture, there are some...
Follow your fat friend. It's YRFATFRIEND. She has an amazing book. Her name's Aubrey Gordon. She has an amazing book about this, an amazing podcast, and she's the best follow online for this subject specifically.
Sonia Renee Taylor as well, her book, Your Body is Not an Apology, that's fantastic. As it's Fearing the Black Body. There are loads of amazing resources out there that will really get the ball rolling in terms of like just understanding why we are where we are and how we can get out of it. So I think that's a fantastic bit of advice. I would love to finish on an audience question that I love and that I would like to ask as well, because I want to be more you. How did you get your no fucks given attitude?
I was pushed to it. I'm not just super strong. I was pushed towards this by society. And I think it's just a kind of sink or swim moment of like, either I can let this devour me and I can give up and I can disappear into the shadows like they want me to, or I can rebel and do the exact opposite and treat my life like an experiment. You know, what if I just lived like a man and got back up after I fucked up and carried on and did better? What if I didn't just cancel myself? What if I just live and exist in this bigger body? What if I just let my face age naturally? What if I just let my white hairs grow out? What if? And I think that treating my life like this fun experiment of what if has completely freed me up to be like, for my life to just be one giant fuck it bucket. Like that, I've had so much adventure and fun, and I've learned so much about myself and about other people, because I've decided to live my life every day like a fun experiment, just to test the boundaries of patriarchy every single day. And every day almost find out that it's it's a fake boundary. There's this meme of a horse that is tied to an empty chair and is just standing still obediently. And it says, sometimes the things holding you back are just all in your head. And I know that that's so undeep and unprofound, but that meme of that horse tied to an empty chair that it could easily just overpower and just run off, in spite of it standing there tied to this empty chair thinking it has to stay still. That's women. Women are that horse. And so a lot of it is in our head. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'd love to point out as well that you are, we get scared to push, to push the limits of the patriarchy, but you've done it and you're thriving. So, the proof is in the pudding, right? We don't have to bow to it.
And also, look, I'll be your imperfect crash test dummy. You can see from all my mistakes what not to do, and I think that that's a valuable part of existence. Is that in as much as I teach people what they should do, I'm also a good reminder of what not to do, what not to tweet, what not to fuck up. And so, learn from my mistakes, and also learn from your own. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Fear is the greatest tool of the patriarchy, and every time we allow it to control our decisions, they win.
I mean, I couldn't think of a more perfect way to wrap up. Honestly, we've run out of time. I'm so sorry to everyone because we've had so many amazing questions come through, and we'd love to be able to answer them all, but we've run out of time. But Jameela, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with us. You're a star, and I've really loved every minute of it. So thank you.
Thank you. You did a great job, and I love chatting to you. Have a great weekend, what's left of it. All right, bye everyone.
Oh, bye. Right, so I am going to pass it over to Coach Carey now, and there is loads more amazing content to come. So have the best day, everyone.
Woo! Fired up. That was amazing. Thank you both. Such an incredible conversation. I'm kind of like pinching myself. Did that just happen? That just happened? She just dropped all kinds of knowledge. Woo! Big thank you to Alex. Big thank you to Jameela for showing up, honoring us with some of her time and just sharing a lot of her journey and being vulnerable. A couple things that really stood out to me was when she said that she does not allow herself to be booked for more time in hair and makeup than the people who identify as men on the sets she's on. I love that. As someone who never wears makeup, I literally, just like she said, only put lotion on. That is just my vibe, And the biggest quote that I really love that she said, my body's a legend. Okay, so I'm about to put that on a shirt for us all. I also did a little outfit change for myself because I feel like this is, like the BodCon is a big event. So I wanted to do a couple outfit changes there the day. Okay, we have a 10-minute break coming up. And this is where we're going to get to the part of the day where it's all about choosing your own adventure for the next 4 sessions. So don't worry, because you can bounce back and forth between all of them on the home screen throughout the tracks, and you'll be able to watch the recording for up to 30 days. So first up, on track 1, we're going to have the body confidence and friendships. So we'll be talking about how to deal with being the bigger friend, how to cope with friends who praise diet culture, and how to make you feel bad about your body. So that's going to be a really powerful conversation. On track number 2, we have the cultural identity and body image, where we'll be unpacking how your cultural background shapes your relationship with your body and the role the media plays within that as well. All right. Off you go. Choose your track. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Don't forget to hit the photo booth. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to bring that energy because we still got lots to come. Sending you all lots of love and see you soon. 10 minutes, people.